Okay.
Yep. Is Amy on that? No, I can't tell. I think she was on the other one.
I'd like to call to order the regular Storm Lake City Council meeting of July 7th. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First order of business then, is there any consideration to any changes to the agenda, council? See none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson McKinney,
Second.
second by Councilperson Rickliffs. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is set. Do we have any disclosures by any city council members to any items on the agenda? Hearing none, then we'll move on to hear the public. Do we have anyone here who would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? If so, please step up to the podium and identify yourself. Of course, there are some folks that don't need identification.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Glenn Schlesser, 820 Oneida Street. I'm also your fire chief. In light of recent media speculation, I want to provide some clarity regarding my departure from the Storm Lake Fire Department. Over 40 days ago, I submitted my formal notice of my decision to step down as fire chief, not due to conflict or dissatisfaction, but for deeply personal reasons. I have nothing but admiration and gratitude for the city of Storm Lake. Working here has been one of the most rewarding chapters of my career to date. City Manager Carrie Navertil, Assistant City Manager David Darragon, the entire city administration and department heads are outstanding individuals. They're not only dedicated professionals, but are genuinely vested in the success and well-being of their people. I've had the privilege of working side by side with them, and I will continue to speak across the fire service about their leadership and their unique people-first culture that they foster. I also want to express my sincere appreciation to the Storm Lake City Council. Your steadfast support has been instrumental in allowing me to modernize the fire department from updating equipment and expanding training programs to enhancing operational readiness and improving community risk reduction. Together, we have moved this department forward in meaningful and lasting ways. When the opportunity presented itself to lead a well-respected fire service organization closer to family, I pursued that path so that I can continue doing the work that I love while being closest to those that I hold dear. It's an opportunity to strike the balance that everyone hopes for, to be present with family without stepping away from a calling and a passion. I leave Storm Lake with nothing but pride and fondness. The relationships I've built here, especially with Carrie and Dave, are ones I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I hope the community understands what true gems they have in their municipal leadership. I will truly miss you all. I look forward to the next success, or the next chapter of my career, and I wish the city of Storm Lake nothing but continued success. I leave you with, see you later, alligator.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Since you're leaving, does that mean you're not paying for the new fire truck?
That's why I got you to pay for it. So that if I did leave, you couldn't change your mind.
Thank
Well,
you, Chief.
I think I speak on behalf of the whole city council that we appreciate the service that you've provided us over the past years. You've brought a professionalism and direction to our fire department that is above none. I mean, it's been awesome, and I know in your future endeavors that you will be a great success wherever you end up. So we appreciate everything you've done for us. Do we have anyone else who would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? Do we have anyone on the phone who would like to address the council? It is *6 to unmute. Hearing none, I just have one thing to say. With Star Spangled Spectacular this past weekend, I just want to hand out my congratulations and thanks to our Commodores, our co-Commodores, Deidre and Tyler Abbey, and then Linda and Councilperson Rickliffs. I think they did just an awesome job. It was, as usual, just a fantastic event for our community. Drew a lot of people to our community, and as far as I could tell, it went off without a hitch, but I'm sure there was. There's probably hitches in there I don't know anything about, but we do appreciate everything that the Abbeys and the Rickliffs did, and I know that there's hundreds of other volunteers
For sure.
that were involved, so thank
Yeah.
you very much.
You're welcome, and yeah, I just want to say thanks to obviously our committee, which a couple of people here in this room are part of, but also the city staff, Public Works, the Parks Department. Jason was a huge help as always. Police Department, Fire Department, and just the Public Works team putting the barricades out and everything. So it's a huge task, but we make it look easy, and I think it's sometimes just taken for granted because it's a lot of work. But yeah, it went well, and I appreciate everyone's support, and yeah.
You know, I've had comments over the last few days of people that bring people to Storm Lake because it's such a great 4th of July experience for them, that people would rather be here than in some other community celebrating the 4th. So thank you, and thanks to everybody in our community that were involved in the Star Spangled Spectacular. It was another great success again. So. If there is nothing else, then we will move on to consent agenda. Do we have any questions or comments on the consent agenda, council? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Ooh, tie. Moved by Councilperson Ramos, seconded by Councilperson McKeon. So we do have a resolution in here. This will be a roll call vote. So Councilperson Ramos?
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez?
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliffs?
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon?
Aye.
And Councilperson McKinney?
Aye.
That will carry. Next item then is the unfinished business. Is that something we want to bring forward today, or do we still want to keep that tabled for future discussion?
I might not have been clear, but I thought at the last meeting, I requested that we, if we are going to do anything with that money, that we get a review of the original applications from the outside agency funding and go through the same process. I might not have been clear, but I don't know how else to allocate that money without going through some type of fair process. So I would like to keep it tabled.
Okay, and then look through the applications again, correct? Okay.
Sounds good.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Would you like to keep it tabled so it doesn't come back next time?
Yes,
You
please.
could pick a date certain down the road, like September, October, whatever you think. And just make a motion to do that to like the first meeting in September or October, when we will probably be discussing budget at that point anyway.
I'm fine with the first meeting in September if we get the, I assume that somebody still has all the applications and we can review them. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Is that
That sounds
okay with
fine.
other council members? First meeting in September? Looks like we have the majority council
Sounds good.
members in agreement with that, so.
Do you just want to do a motion to set it for
Okay.
that first meeting?
Okay, we will do that then. I would entertain a motion to move the resolution allocation of funds generated through the Storm Lake Proud cleanup to the first meeting in September.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson McKeon, second by Councilperson Ramos. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That will carry.
Thank you.
We'll have it the first
See
meeting
you
in
in September.
Okay, I gotta get to the right. There it is. Okay, next item of business then is the motion for carrying pause rescue noise variance request. Chief Cole.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. What you have in front of you is a request from Caring Paws for a noise variance for a blessing of the animals event scheduled to take place at Frank Star Park on Saturday, September 27th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is for amplified music and live guitar performances. And I believe Sue Lingus is here for if you have any questions regarding the event.
Any questions or comments, council? Any questions for Sue? Okay, hearing none then, I would entertain a motion to approve the Caring Paws Rescue Noise Variance Request.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez,
Second.
second by Councilperson McKinney. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And let the record show that Councilperson McKeon is abstaining from this vote. That will carry. Next item is a motion for Institute of Iowa Certified Assessor's Noise Variance Request. Chief Cole.
Good evening. In front of you is a request from the Iowa Certified Assessors Institute. They're scheduled to have a conference here in Storm Lake, and with about 105 family and friends coming. They are renting out the golf course and have rooms at Kings Point, and have requested a noise variance for an event on July 16th. At the golf course, they're planning on having Brad Morgan performing an acoustic set with one amplified speaker from the hours of 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And we do have Pam Pingle, who was the requester for the event, online, if you have questions for her.
Any questions, council? And this event is just for the group?
Correct.
But if you're outside and you hear it,
Enjoy
it's
it.
okay.
Enjoy it, yes. Okay. Hearing no record. Hearing nothing else, then I would entertain a motion for the Institute of Iowa Certified Assessor's Noise Variance Request.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson McKeon.
Second.
Second by Councilperson McKinney. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That will carry.
We're gonna make use of you.
I'm just
Sit
gonna
down.
hang out.
It's a motion for our Storm Lake United request to waive the public safety costs for the Mary Collin Lake Avenue Parade. Chief Cole.
As you recall, last March, we did, when during budget discussion, we were discussing the adoption of new fees with the city due to the recent tax reform measures and the impact on the city's general fund. And then during those meetings, it was decided that we were going to begin charging for certain services starting July 1st, 2025, to ensure the long-term sustainability of the police operations budget and to be able to continue to provide essential services for public safety. The policy change specifically applied to special events that require police overtime and additional demands on the department's operating budget. In the past, we've always absorbed these costs as part of our commitment to supporting local events and organizations. However, due to the increase in city revenue resulting from, due to the decrease in city revenues resulting from the state tax changes, we're no longer in a position to do that. So what we did on July 1st, we sent out letters to the entities that have different events that require additional personnel to come in and work for public safety, and gave them an estimate for pricing based on the council resolutions. And one of those events was the Mary Collin Lake Avenue Parade, which generally requires about 8 officers and 8 additional vehicles. And Storm Lake United is here to try and request a waiver for those fees.
questions or comments, council?
Laura Hanks is here
Does
if
Laura
you
like
want
to
to discuss further with
Address
her.
council?
Thank you, Chief Cole. Honorable Mayor and Council, just wanted to address the idea of waiving the fees for the Miracle on Lake Avenue Parade. Obviously, this is an annual event that draws a huge crowd over the holidays. And it not only draws a crowd for people to just be spectators at the parade, but also people that are shoppers that evening and future shoppers over the holidays. If we were to have to pay out the amount that was quoted in the letter, it would mean that we probably would not be able to move forward with the Miracle on Lake. This is an event for Storm Lake United that does not generate any income. Strictly generates expenses for us with marketing in the local newspaper, local radio, and printing posters and getting the word out amongst the community. So it's something that we absorbed so far, but if it were to become thousands of dollars that we would have to spend on the event, we would have to take a hard look at whether or not we would be able to move forward with that annual event each year. If we were to lose those potential visitors and shoppers, it would be a loss of local option sales tax potentially for the community, so we would like to ask that that fee be waived for this event.
Question, Chief Cole, what services are we providing, are you, as part of this?
So generally, what we need is traffic control. And some of the other organizations that we've spoken with are taking volunteers and employees and so forth to block roadways with barricades rather than have police services. Because what we're doing is we're calling in police officers to do traffic control at specific street closure locations to ensure that traffic doesn't come into the parade venue. So that's the services that.
But the barricades and stuff would still be available, correct?
Correct, yes.
We would
Yeah,
provide those, it'd just be we would be able, or they could be able to provide supervising the barricades with volunteers, correct?
That's how some of the other organizations are doing it. It kind of depends too, like their insurance, you know, there'd be maybe some insurance questions for whoever's doing that, but yes. The other parade, we've discussed pre-placing barricades and having staff from the other organizations and volunteers manning those barricades rather than calling in police and paying them callback time.
So do you think that if Storm Lake United said that they could handle the barricades and the intersections and the lining up of the parade participants without assistance from the police department, that it would be able to be safely done?
Yes, we'd be happy to work with them in ensuring that it's safely, or set up with a safe plan as long as the people are available.
So another option, instead of waiving the fee, would be for Storm Lake United to say that they would staff it themselves.
Correct, yes.
Or find community
Right.
volunteers.
And we had some of that, I think, at the last Miracle. So, yeah, okay.
I think one of the concerns that we had during the last Miracle on Lake Avenue Parade was that we weren't, we were having a difficult time controlling traffic because they were trying to go through barricades and different things. So as long as we have permission to direct traffic during that event, I think that's something that, you know, if we had some flashlights, radios, that kind of thing that would assist us in directing that traffic and making sure that people knew the routes around and were able to give those people direction, that would make it a lot easier.
Sure. And possibly some consultation with you on how to manage that, Chief Cole?
Yeah, we can't provide the flashlights and equipment
Right.
for that. That would have to be something that you provided. But, you know, we would want to make sure that people had safe traffic vests, and we would just completely barricade the roads off so that, and then have someone standing there to ensure the barricade isn't moved. You can't set the barricade and leave it unmanned or unsupervised, otherwise people will move on.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Any other
this
questions?
time is a little different than, say, the homecoming parade or whatever, because that's during daylight hours. This is at nighttime. You know, it's dark by then, so it does create a little bit more of a challenge. Like I said, you need the flashlights and the vests and all that stuff, so.
Do you think, Laura, do you think that is something that we could come up with volunteers for?
I think that given the appropriate amount of time, we've got 6 months to plan ahead. I think we can come up with enough volunteers to handle that.
So instead of waiving this, it's not really, they're not gonna provide a service to be waived.
Yeah, but we still have to vote on the motion.
We'd have to vote it down, I guess. A yea vote would be to waive it.
Either if there's no motion for it, that
Or it does.
dies due to lack of motion too.
Any other comments? Okay, then I would entertain a motion for the Storm Lake United request to waive public safety costs for the Maricon Lake Avenue Parade. Is there a motion? Hearing none then, this motion dies. We will work with volunteers.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Next item then is a public hearing on updating the Storm Lake building codes. I will open that public hearing. Mr. Olson.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, again, this is an update to the building codes that's adopted by the city. And the codes that we're talking about regulate how structures are completed in the community, and they're updated every 3 years. So this would include the electrical, fire, building, residential, plumbing, mechanical, all those things that are utilized in one fashion or another in the construction of buildings here in the city of Storm Lake. We typically follow, we're adopting the 2024 codes. We're in 2025. Typically, we follow when the new code comes out, adopting the following construction. It gives us time to do some training. There's always changes in the codes, and so it gives us, myself and staff, time to get caught up with what that is. Some of the codes, particularly the electrical code and plumbing code, is mandated by the state of Iowa, so the particular code we're adopting will be in conformance with them. And the other codes that we're adopting will keep us up on our ISO rating as well. Mainly when these codes are updated, they take into consideration things that have happened in the past 3 years, whether it be large-scale fires or wind, weather events, and try to accommodate those changes to try and prevent those things from happening. It also accommodates changes in materials and techniques, so it keeps us current with everybody else, and makes us more competitive for construction that goes on here, that we can take advantage of newer things that come out. Based on our last conversation, I did not adopt the portion of the code that would allow for tiny homes or for containers to be used for housing or permanent structures. I left that part out. I did attach the updated ordinance with strikeouts and highlighted sections that show the changes I'm proposing. And again, this is just trying to keep us on the current edition and keep us in line with folks around us and with ISO and the state.
Do we have anyone here who would like to comment on this public hearing? Do we have anybody online that would like to comment on this public hearing? It's *6 to unmute. Council, do you have any questions or any comments at the public hearing?
Yeah, I do. Is there a reason why we have to update every year and go through all this and the printing and whatever, as opposed to just saying we are following the state codes? I mean, like the police department doesn't update all of their different things every year because, the legislature does anything. So I'm just trying to think if we can make things a little bit easier instead of updating, going through this cost of the updating and everything. And then, granted, we may have some additional ones, But if all we were having to do was update any additional ones, I would think that would save some time and energy.
Yes, Councilperson McKinney, I think from my understanding of it was, from our previous attorney, that we couldn't just carte blanche do that. I'm not sure why, but
Okay.
maybe just because there's, every 3 years, you're definitely changing the regulations that are in there. This gives the opportunity for us to do a review of it, perhaps. I'm not sure, but I remember when Mr. Havens, we brought that up before, we could just add the newest building code as is put out by the International Code Council, but that was kind of a no-go. So I think from his interpretation, we had to redo it every 3 years that that the new codes came out.
Well, maybe sometime in the future, it'd be something to look into, again,
Yeah.
just to see.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyone else like to comment in this public hearing? See none, then I will close the public hearing. Next item then is ordinance number 1-0-2025-2026, hearing on updating the Storm Lake building codes, and this is the first reading. Mr. Olson, you're still up.
Yes, Mayor and Council, again, this is updating us to the 2024 International Codes and the Uniform Plumbing Code, as well as the 2023 National Electrical Code. Again, this keeps us on the most current versions and keeps us in line with other jurisdictions in the state.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 1-0-2025-2026, updating the Storm Lake building codes. This is the first of 3 readings.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez,
Second.
second by Councilperson McKeon. This will be a roll call vote. So Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliffs.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
And Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
That will carry. Next item is resolution number 2-R-2025-2026, approving change order number 3 for the new production well number 22 project. Mr. Olson.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this is a request for a change order for our new well, number 22. This is currently under construction by King Construction. This is north of the water treatment plant and to the west of the new early elementary school. When they did the pump testing, we estimated the production of this well to be 1,200 gallons per minute. We've determined now that it's at 750 gallons per minute. That being the case, the pipe sizing and the pump sizing that was based on 1,200 gallons per minute is going to be larger than it needs to be. So the requested change would reduce the pipe size and reduce the pump sizing and save us money and not have it unnecessarily oversized for what we're actually using it for there. This does also make a change to painting the inside of the well house to help protect it from the moisture and humidity that's inside there. The net change or net result of this is a decrease in the contract price of $15,654.07 as a part of this change order. I did attach a copy of the letter from the engineer responsible for this project, recommended we accept this change.
So any questions or comments for Mr. Olson? How close are we getting to having this well up and rolling?
I believe it's October of this year. Yeah, so it's getting
Okay.
closer.
Getting
They're on-
close, good.
They're still on track. This will not negatively affect the completion date.
Okay. Other questions or comments, Council? Hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2-R-2025-2026, approving change order number 3 for the new production well number 22 project.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Ramos,
Second.
second by Councilperson Martinez. This will be a roll call vote. Councilperson Rickliffs.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
And Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
That will carry.
All right, thank you.
Next item is resolution number 3-R-2025-2026, establishing the water treatment plant water rates and design advisory ad hoc committee. And And since Mr. Olson sat down, I guess it's Ms. Navratil, you're up.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. We have been talking about a new water treatment plant for at least 5, 6, 7 years now. I'm pleased to say that we are to the point where we need to start figuring out where it's going to go and then also start design, which also means what are we going to do with our rates? And so the advisory committee or the ad hoc committee would be a temporary committee that would assist in the planning and design for the water treatment plant, and then also have discussions on what the appropriate rates to fund the new construction for the new plant. The advisory committee would be formed for a very limited scope of time. They would address the planning design, a rate structure, and then they would also evaluate different options and costs and provide City Council with any recommendations. Now, ISG has completed or almost completed the engineering or the preliminary engineering report, which will help aid the advisory committee on making some of those decisions. The advisory committee would not exceed 19 members. I know that seems a lot, but as I was going through the list of who should be at the table and who we would like to be at the table, it just ended up being 19 members. We have to remember we don't just provide water to city limit Storm Lake. We also provide water to outside users as well. So the city of Lakeside, Truesdale, Lake Creek, and then also individuals around the lake. So we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity for people to join onto this committee if they are basically a Storm Lake user. The recommendation is to have ISG be the lead project manager. They are the engineer for the new water treatment plant. Have 2 citizens of Storm Lake, 2 members of major industrial users, member of Storm Lake United, employee of the Storm Lake School District, a city representative from Lakeside, a city representative from Truesdale, a resident from Lake Creek, 2 outside Storm Lake residential users, and then staff that would be present during these meetings would be the city manager, building code and compliance director, water treatment supervisor, finance director, and the mayor. Will serve as any city staff representation. So if there's questions or anything that that we would need to provide to the committee. I've also kind of outlined a tentative meeting date and timeline. September 10th would be when we would have our first meeting. We would have a tour of the water plant at that time, and then also have the preliminary engineering report available. The week of October 13th, we would discuss possible locations and estimated design and construction costs. Week of November 10th, discussion of rates. Week of December 18th, we'd finalize the location and rate recommendation. And then January 5th, our very first meeting for 2026, come forward with recommendations to present to City Council.
Any questions, Council?
If people are interested, they would just contact City Hall to apply.
Right, Honorable Mayor and Council will advertise like we generally do for open boards and commissions. If we don't get a lot of turnout, then we'll start contacting those communities and seeing who they would like to send as representation. Like I said, we want to have a good broad scope of everybody who's a user of the system on the committee.
I guess my only question would be whether or not we would want to have more than 2 citizens of Storm Lake. We want to have, since the community is the biggest user.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, we can change whatever we want on here.
I know it's just, you have
This is
2
just a-
outside of Storm Lake residential users. I think we probably want to have more Storm Lake citizens
I would agree.
on there. I mean, it wouldn't have to be like 3 maybe or something like that. But, since that represents the largest group of users,
Yep,
would be
Honorable-
my only comment on
I
that.
agree. 3 to 4 citizens.
Yeah, we can put a number of not to exceed 5. I mean, we have, like I said, I had not to exceed 19 members. I think that would be, I mean, we have room to add additional members. I think my initial count was 11. And then with any additional interested parties, then we would have the not to exceed of 19. So we can change that to 5, 4,
Okay.
or unlimited.
Well, how do we, are we basing this on just people volunteering to City Hall, or?
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council,
are we
first
reaching
we,
out to folks, or what's the plan on that?
yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, we'd first advertise, just to make sure that we would get everybody who's interested, who would join first. If there is lack of interest, then we will start making some contacts. I mean, this is an incredible opportunity. I mean, we call, you know,
This
the-
is, yeah, and this is a big, you know,
This is big.
it's a big deal. A water plant's a big, big project. And we need all the input we can get from folks to make sure we have the input.
So do you need a specific number for us, since we've raised the issue about Storm Lake residents for guidance? Do you want us to
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and
keep that
Council, if
now?
you just, yeah, if you just want to say the, if you just want to change the number of members from the citizens of Storm Lake to up to
Up
5.
to 5, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, you would not need to change the not to exceed amount of 19. Like I said, there was enough.
Is that everybody on board
Yes.
with?
Mhm.
with that?
That makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? That sound good?
Absolutely, Honorable Mayor and Council.
All right, I would entertain a motion then to approve resolution number 3-R-2025-2026, establishing the water treatment plant water rates and design advisor ad hoc committee with the change that residents of Storm Lake would have up to 5 folks on that committee.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez and seconded by Councilperson McKeon. Also a roll call vote, so Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
And Councilperson Rickliff.
Aye.
That will carry. Next item is resolution number 4-R-2025-2026 to set a date for a public hearing to approve plan specifications, form of contract, and engineer's estimate of cost, and set a date for a bid letting for the wastewater treatment plant blower replacement project. Mr. Darragon.
Honorable Mayor and Council, the city has received a $300,000 energy efficiency and conservation block grant from IEDA to replace the existing aeration blowers with the new, more efficient blowers and controls, which will reduce the city's annual operating cost and provide staff more operational control over the biological treatment process. Plans and specifications have been prepared by ISG, and the city has received a construction permit from DNR, allowing the city to bid the project. This item, this resolution, will set the public hearing on August 18th, 2025 at 5 p.m. And it will also set the bid letting for August 13th, 2025 at 10 a.m. in City Council chambers. I am open to any questions you may have about the wonderful world of wastewater.
Any questions for Mr. Darragon? This is just setting the public hearings. I would entertain a motion then to approve resolution number 4-R-2025-2026 to set a date for a public hearing to approve the plan specifications, form of contract, and engineer's estimate of cost, and set a date for bid letting for the wastewater treatment plant blower replacement project. And the public hearing then would be set for Monday, August 18th, here in the council chambers at 5 p.m., and the bid letting would be held on August 13th, needing to be in by 10 a.m. Moved by Councilperson Ramos.
Second.
Second by Councilperson Rickliff. Also a roll call vote, so Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliff.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
That will carry.
Thank you.
Next item is ordinance number 7-0-2024-2025, amending City Code Title III, Chapter 10, Section 6B for the purpose of changing the stormwater service rate. And this is the third and final reading. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Stormwater is billed on equivalent residential unit basis, which is 2,750 square feet of impervious surface. This is the average square footage of a single-family dwelling residential unit as outlined in the city code. Commercial properties with parking lots or additional impervious surfaces are charged additional ERUs based on a calculation. This ordinance will increase $1 a month to $5, totaling approximately $107,000 of additional revenue for the stormwater fund. The last rate increase was June of 2013 from $3 to $4 per ERU. If approved, the new rates will go into effect for the bills due in August of 2025. Recommendations to approve the third reading of the stormwater rate increase for fiscal year 26.
You have any questions for Mr. Gibbons? Okay, hearing none then, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 7-0-2024-2025, amending City Code Title III, Chapter 10, Section 6B for the purpose of changing the Storm Lake water service rate. And this is the third and final reading.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez,
Second.
second by Councilperson Rickliffs. Also a roll call vote, so Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliffs.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
And Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
That will carry. Next item then is ordinance number 8-0-2024-2025, amending City Code Title III, Chapter 3, Section 4 for the purpose of changing the sewer service rate. And this is the third and final reading. Mr. Gibbons?
Thank you again. The proposed 10% increase will increase the typical monthly use of 600 cubic feet by $5.09 per month for the self-supporting sewer fund. The proposed rate increase is anticipated to generate $403,000 of additional revenue for fiscal year 2026. If approved, these new rates will also go into effect on the August 2025 bill. Recommendation is to approve the third reading of the sewer rate increase for fiscal year 2026.
Any questions for Mr. Gibbons on this item? Hearing none then, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 8-0-2024-2025, amending City Code Title III, Chapter 3, Section 4 for the purpose of changing the sewer service rate. This is the third and final reading.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Martinez,
Second.
second by Councilperson Ramos. Also a roll call vote. Councilperson Martinez.
Aye.
Councilperson Rickliffs.
Aye.
Councilperson McKeon.
Aye.
Councilperson McKinney.
Aye.
And Councilperson Ramos.
Aye.
That will carry. Next item then is a work session on the Storm Lake Airport's underground fuel system repairs. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. As the fiscal sponsor and the owners of the airport, just wanted to give a brief update of kind of where the underground storage tank fuel system repairs stand at the airport. The airport is required to complete a biannual compliance inspection for the underground storage tanks as required by the DNR. During the most recent inspection on June 24th, the tank leak detection inspection failed due to an electrical issue from the underground storage tank to the tank monitoring Vita root system. So just kind of back this up, in late 2024 during the insurance renewal, a temporary service was required because it was found that there was no power to it at that point. In working with the contractor at that time, they became unresponsive. So in early 2025, Midwest Petroleum was contacted. They did complete an investigation and identified a collapsed pipe. I believe it's the ground from the probe system to the Vita root system, but there are multiple sets of conduits that are running from the terminal for power and everything that go all the way out to the fuel system, as well as branch off and go to the underground storage tanks. In March of 2025, an itemized quote was provided. Based on an initial investigation, they were unsure if that probe and the Veeder-Root system would be compatible together, or if the age of the equipment was obsolete and we would have to replace everything. So the initial quote was almost $60,000 and provided to the commission if the intent was to replace the Veeder-Root and the underground wire and the new probe. So we later did find out that the contractor was able to supply a probe that is compatible with the Veeder-Root system, which took about $22,000 off of the initial quote. When we had the discussion about the quote in April, and the update on what the probe was, that the request from the commission was just to look for alternative, cheaper sources, because the underground storage tanks are scheduled to be replaced to an above-ground tank. This has kind of fluctuated in years based on funding availabilities, anywhere from 2027 to 2029. Right now, it's in fiscal year 2029, I believe, or 2028. I've attached that most recent ACIP for your review as well. With no alternative identified during the biannual inspection, the DNR inspector actually provided another contact to try to get another cost for quote. The cost came in from Tahi. I don't believe that actually got attached, so I apologize to give you a paper copy. About $28,000 or $29,000 is what theirs came in at. This is an unbudgeted, unplanned project. So as the fiscal sponsors, any additional funds for the commission, and based on any commission action, will actually require city council action for that. So as the fiscal sponsors and as the owners, just some things that I wanted to note on here. As I said, that project has actually been moving from 2027 to 2029. Right now it's in 2029. I've outlined the next couple of years of funding allocations, which is $130,000 from local option sales tax for the existing April project that we're working on right now. 27 and 28 totals about $255,000, and this is for $80,000 for the PAPIs and reels. This is going to be an FAA funded project, because during the 1735 lighting project, it was found that the PAPIs and reels electrical and the PAPIs and reels themselves are actually in bad condition, and the FAA is aware of this and is recommending that that project get moved up. The additional $175,000 for the match for the relocation and removal of the existing underground tanks to above ground, so it's 2028. This is actually is proposed right now at the time to be a state funded project, which requires a lot more of a local match. So just some things to note as the fiscal sponsors of the airport. Right now, with items such as the storm event and unknown projects, and we still have costs coming in for the storm. For example, it's to about $278,000 worth of expense. The anticipated general fund ending balance for fiscal year 26, so June 30th, 2026, where we're currently at, is right at 40%. The council desired 40%. Projects such as these are obviously outside of the scope of the project and require to come from the reserves, which will be below that 40% fund balance. So again, as the owners and the fiscal sponsors, I just wanted to provide an update. The commission does have representatives here. If you would have any questions or concerns.
So the storage tanks from going underground to above ground, that is not a FAA?
Not the way it's scheduled right now, because of the time frame of when your funding allocations would be available. The FAA doesn't rate revenue generating projects such as hangars or fuel very high on their annual allocation at the federal level, so it would rate and score lower on the federal. So if they've got funding cuts on their annual appropriations, it'd be projects such as those that would not be funded, because they consider those revenue generating and being able to be self-supporting.
Self-sufficient.
So I have a question. With the tank leak detection inspection failure due to electrical issue, are there any heightened risks, safety risks?
Not as far as safety that I'm aware of, because we have an FBO out there who is still monitoring the system. Now, the concern is going to be on the DNR for the actual license itself. They can provide a consent order and prohibit fuel deliveries, and you can no longer sell fuel at the airport.
I have questions. As soon
Okay.
as this come about, because I helped put in those tanks initially when they come. I know all about the systems and everything else. What gets me is that why the electrical issue for the Vita route was not addressed a long time ago as far as getting power to that. For one thing, they're supposed to print out a tank monitoring report every month at least. So if there's no power there, they're not printing out reports. So that means they're not keeping the correct reports. And I think one of the things in here was the reports were not up to date. So to me, there's a lack of anybody taking any ownership in that out there. And if we have an FBO and you say he's out there to monitor stuff, he hasn't been monitoring it so far, so we're gonna count on him. The good thing about it is that those are double wall tanks. So if there is a leak, it'll at least go interstitial. The other problem is without that monitoring for water in tanks, which does happen, I would hate to see an airplane get water in it and be up above and then all of a sudden have issues because of water. So again, to me, it's terrible if this is the way that things are being run out there, that this wasn't addressed as far as the power issue. And for one thing, the power from the probe inside has nothing to do with the power of the Vita route itself. Those are low voltage wires going out to those probes and sensors out there. One of those not working is not going to affect the power for the Vita route itself. Somehow or another, either breaker got shut off, it got flipped, maybe it blew a fuse inside the thing, but somebody, if they were properly doing their job, should have recognized that right away within the first month, if they were doing their reports like they're supposed to. So I'm asking the airport commission to look at your FBO or whoever is out there, and they either get their stuff together or get out, because this is ridiculous.
Maybe some misunderstanding about the issues.
You have to come
No,
up-
he knows the issues out there. I taught him what he needs to do. I know he knows what needs to be done.
So my understanding was the issue.
Mr. Durkee, would you go up to the podium, please?
So I think part of the issue, Tyler, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that the issue was recognized right away by the contractor that we were initially working with. Basically quoted us to replace everything there because I don't think they had an understanding of what would work with what. And then they eventually just started or stopped responding to requests for information.
We didn't even
So
get a
that-
quote. We didn't even get a quote from the first one of the second companies. We didn't even get a quote from
Yeah.
So it went back and forth with them for a while, during which time the FBO personnel were manually dipping the tank and generating reports for the DNR that way. So it's not that reports weren't being generated, it's that they were manually dipping the tank to monitor for leakage.
It looked like some of the reports that I was seeing weren't being done. There was a report of no reports on file. And also, that electrical issue should have been found long before a contractor had to be called in.
That's why we called the contractor, I believe, isn't it? Because we recognize the issue.
Did anybody think of contacting an electrician to see if there was even power going to it?
Yeah, there was several electricians out there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not that no one's been trying to fix it, we've dealt with contractors back and forth, and people don't call, and then you gotta find a new guy, and that takes them a month to get out there, and it's been a hassle.
I understand all that, but I still think this issue should have been addressed quite a while ago.
Yeah,
I think it's been an ongoing issue for probably quite a while. And one way we could tell is if we looked at all the reports where they were actually sticking the tank.
Yeah, I'm sure they've been sticking it because a year we've been dealing with this, for
Well,
sure.
Right there tells me too that it's not being taken seriously, an issue like that.
Well, I mean, we're taking it seriously. We're trying to fix it. It's just, we gotta have somebody out there to fix it, so.
But if this would have been brought up maybe a year ago, we could have got it into funding instead of having to pull out of reserves and other things to try and do this. And like I said, I do not feel that there's proper supervision or whatever out there
Yeah, so
from what I'm seeing.
a temporary fix was made last year so they could electronically generate the reports again. And what we're trying to do is keep this in the AIP so that we could get it funded. The problem we're up against is, like Tyler said, Bolton and Mink advises us on how we rank everything for the FAA, and they've told us repeatedly, like, don't ask for a fuel farm, you won't get it. They just won't pay for it.
And if the underground tanks were gonna stay there, I would recommend getting a whole new system because I know that the one that's out there is getting outdated. So, but if we are going to above ground tanks and gonna get rid of that system, then I say we just put the Band-Aid on it and get it going, but,
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We were hoping to get there without spending money on it any more than we had to, but here we are.
Okay,
So,
so
Oh, I was like,
what is the goal of the work session?
Honorable Mayor and Council, this was just to provide information to the City Council. So when the Airport Commission came forward with a request, it wasn't a surprise. That's what the purpose of this work session was this evening, because we just got that report a couple weeks ago, not even a couple weeks ago.
From, yeah, the end of
Right.
June 24th for the.
June
design
24th.
inspection.
Did you need direction that we'll need to take it out of
The-
reserves, or it's gonna have? need
The
to be done
airport's
anyway?
engineer, Garrett Jacobs, is also on the call. I don't know
Right.
if he has anything to add as well, or if you guys have any question for the engineer themselves as well.
Sorry.
Sure.
As far as funding goes, you guys hit it on the head with, the revenue producing projects. They do score very low with FAA. And in this instance, rather than, the cabinets that are above ground are in great condition. And so that project would be moving the fuel farm and getting those tanks above ground. It alleviates a couple different things, but the main thing is monitoring. Obviously, there's still monitoring that goes on with above ground tanks, but it's not to the extent that below ground tanks call for. The tanks themselves are old, but we believe, the best chance in getting this funded is going to be through Iowa DOT, because they do allow for relocation of existing equipment, whereas FAA would require all new, and that would be substantially more expensive, especially when we see the price of fueling cabinets going through the roof in the last year and a half. But yeah, in my opinion, right now, it would be appropriate to Band-Aid the situation, make it work, and then get the reports and everything auto-generated and apply for DOT funding come fiscal year 28, which would be, I think in May 27, we apply, and then would have a grant thereafter.
And that would be for moving the tanks above ground, correct?
Correct. Yep, we would move the location to a different location on we would move the tanks or the whole fuel farm to a different location on the apron, utilizing the existing cabinets that you see above ground.
And I think we saw those when we had that area when we had the tour out there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, those big silver things.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
If I'm understanding this, I know it's a work session, but eventually you're going to come before us and ask the council to approve $28,195 from our reserve fund,
If that's the direction of the airport commission, that's what we'll have to.
and our reserve fund is already below the 40%.
It is.
Great.
Where's it at right now?
What's that?
The reserve fund is where?
about 38.38%.
38%.
That's the anticipated for June of 2026. Yep. And projected.
So just a
At
little,
this time.
a couple percent below what we suggest should be there. Okay. We have to be a little cognizant of the reserve funds coming up because they're gonna be real, extremely difficult to replace. Or to move it back up to the level we want when we're gonna be operating on a balanced budget at best and not have anything extra to be able to.
Depending what happens at the legislative level, it'll be maybe difficult for
Yeah,
future years
correct.
to be able to replenish any type of reserve fund.
I don't like the project. I guess we're not voting on it anyway, so. But I know that there's a need for it, the DNR and everybody else. It's something we're gonna have to bite the bullet on and do. But, because I don't think the DNR will suffice with the other testing that's being done.
And the important thing is we want, I mean, we've had that discussion before for the airport to try to get as balanced as they can be out there, and they
Yeah.
need that revenue source for fuel to be
Oh,
able to
yeah.
do that, so we need to make sure the equipment is functional.
Yeah.
And they did, they increased their hangar rent as well as increased their markup on that fuel.
Correct.
Again, as long as we can continue to sell fuel.
Rick, did you need
No, I just
anything
want
else?
to
Is that
provide an
what?
update and answer any questions, and thank the commission for
Yes,
coming and
thank
answering.
thank
any
you,
questions.
thanks, Mr. Durkin, for presenting. Anybody have anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Durkin, for coming forward too.
Okay,
Thank you.
we will move on then. Next item is a motion funding request from Ready, Set, Grow. Mrs. Navratil.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. We did receive a letter requesting funds for Ready, Set, Grow. For City Council to consider $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year to cover essential costs for Ready, Set, Grow. There is a copy of the proposal and business plan attached to the City Council packet. But the request is tonight is $750 a month in facility rent to be paid to Hope Haven, $165 a month for internet service, and $135 a month for printing and communications costs.
Okay, I think we had the proposal, so everybody's had a chance to see that. We have some representatives from Ready, Set, Grow. Would you like to speak at this agenda item? And you don't need to read through the whole proposal because we've all had it. If you
We'll
have
be
some
here a long
highlights in
time.
there that, more than welcome, but.
Yep. So Honorable Mayor, Council, people, thank you for taking the time to go over this proposal. Last we were here was on June 2nd, and then at that time, we got together on June 6th with the steering committee, led by Councilmember Martinez, to go through some requests, and also at that time, it was asked of RSG to go ahead and put together a proposal on some costs. We had a fruitful discussion about what we can and cannot ask for, so we put this together. Included in the document is our business plan that was requested, as well as some of our expenses, and just here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for them? Like I said, you guys have all looked over the proposal. Do you have any questions for them?
No. But I do have questions regarding the proposal that Ms. Navratil could probably answer.
Okay.
Okay. So first, from what I understand, that the suggestion is that if this proposal were to go through, it would come from our reserves. So I have a couple of questions, just for everybody's clarity. What is the purpose of our reserves fund?
Typically, Honorable Mayor and Council, our reserves are, we've used them, well, I guess in this year, we used them for the storm that came in April. We typically try to have 6 months of operating costs on hand so that if we are hit by any storm, tornado, or any type of storm damage, we're able to continue operations. That's what we've been using our reserves for. In addition, I guess we just had an item prior to this about unanticipated projects that come up as well. We've used a few, but not very many, I was gonna say, to be as a grant match, if something were to come up, but that's happened in rare circumstances.
So it's basically 6 months of operating expenses in the event of an emergency that would affect multiple areas of service to citizens of Storm Lake.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council. Typically, it's, general fund, we're talking general fund here, because that would be the only operating, because we have other funds that we operate from as well, but for this particular purpose, funding could only come from general fund property tax to
So that
a
was
request
my
like
next
this.
question. So the general fund, the way we have the way we have money set aside in reserves comes directly from property taxes.
In this particular, yes, in this particular request, general fund, Ready, Set, Grow would only be eligible for property tax dollars. Because there are restrictions, you cannot use your water fund, your sewer fund, local option sales tax is not an option. Road use tax has nothing to do with roads. Storm sewer, those are our other funds that we have available, but there is very limited funds on what requests like this can be used for.
Mr. Gibbons, did you have something to add to this question?
Yeah, the only other thing that I was gonna mention, on top of being able to fund all those other things, our reserves are utilized in our bond rating that we get annually as well, and the financial stability of the city of Storm Lake when it comes time to borrow in later years, and even the bonds that you have, they do look at that for those bonds you currently have.
Thank you. And part of my reason for the question is I think everybody needs to understand that when these proposals come for us and we say, oh, we have reserves, there's a reason we have reserves, and everybody needs to understand how we get to those reserves. We've just heard another proposal that somebody's going to come and ask us potentially for almost $30,000 from reserves. My understanding, again, just correct me if I'm wrong, the council some time ago said reserves needed to stay at 40%, or that was the goal. We're currently at 38%. This would bring us down how much further?
I think we're at 38.8%, so like 38.5%. So,
Okay.
and as Finance Director Gibbons mentioned, again, your bond rating is important as well.
Right, for many, many projects.
Right.
Okay. And so then my last point and my last question is, in considering this, for this nonprofit organization, there are other nonprofit organizations in Storm Lake that service children, families, the elderly, and the disabled, who are also struggling to have money. So if we were to consider a proposal for this nonprofit, does that then open the door for all those other nonprofits to come forward and ask us to fund their organization as well? That might be a rhetorical question.
Anyone else have any questions for Ready, Set, Grow folks? Or for Ms. Navratil?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I understand the situation you're in was not something you had that Ready, Set, Grow intended to do. You had a program in Alta that was moving forward, and it blew up kind of, or blew down, I guess. The water ruined it. So the numbers that you can support at Hope Haven aren't significant enough or not sufficient enough to break even every month. And it doesn't look like that's going to change for many years. I mean, it's going to take quite a while to get back up there again. Although this would be a Band-Aid, it's just a little tiny Band-Aid. And I'm concerned that the inevitable is going to happen. And it's disappointing. It disappoints me that we can't maintain a program like this here. I can be disappointed and still not, support something or, financially. And I think the community is disappointed. And from what I hear, people are disappointed that we haven't been able to make this work yet. And it is a goal of our council to try to help something like this work. I just don't know at the current situation if this is sustainable, even with $12,000.
Well, plus, if I may, the conclusion and call to action isn't just for one $12,000, it is to commit to $12,000 annually, which we also can't do. And I do understand that this is difficult.
Right.
Many families that I've talked to have had to make very difficult decisions because of need for childcare, and they have had to be very creative in how they've gotten that childcare and balanced their two career families. It's a tough situation, but I also have to look at what's best for the city overall. And
One question I have is, when you had the breakdown for rent, internet, service, printing, et cetera, was that after you figured in the rate increase, or was that before? Because I know you're going from 200 to 225 or something like that.
Correct. It was taken into consideration after.
So that is already figuring in the increase in the rate.
Yep. And within the business plan too, it has us increasing our rate to 250 a week by the time we get to 2026. So we're gradually getting up there to make ends meet. And if I may, I completely understand your concerns, and I understand the issues with reserves. And yes, to answer your question, I know it was rhetorical, but it does open the doors for other nonprofits, certainly. But I would encourage you all to really take a look at how many families and businesses that we impact here, and the economic impact that a daycare center has on a community. That's where we are very different than a lot of other nonprofits here in Storm Lake. I mean, we service 30 different businesses here in town. That's a lot of people that depend on those employers or those employees to show up to work every single day. Those employees don't show up to work. Work is not getting done here. The other thing, we have many board members that are here because of job opportunities, and one of the things that we keep hearing from our families is they're having to consider leaving Storm Lake. That means now our businesses are stuck trying to figure out how we hire good quality talent to bring here to Storm Lake. That again contributes to the economy. So while I understand certainly the economic impact that this would have, and certainly how it dips into the reserves, I also think we also have to be thinking about long-term how this impacts our economy and impacts Storm Lake, because our businesses need talent here too. And it's been really challenged to hire. I myself am somebody that hires here, and it's been really hard to find talent when asked about the daycare situation here in Storm Lake.
Any other questions, Council?
I have a question. Within your plans for future, are you guys planning to do any fundraising, or have you done anything like that?
We have done quite a bit of fundraising. We try to do any grants that are available to us, so we're always looking at those. Some of the ones we've applied for in the past: Beebe County Foundation, Early Childhood Iowa, Walmart, Tyson. The state of Iowa does stipends at different times. If we're eligible for any of these, we are applying. Beebe County Board of Supervisors, the Taylor Foundation, we had reached out to them. They actually do a matching funds, which currently we do not have the funds to do any matching with them, but we're in contact with them, which would be we would assume that would be a larger opportunity. Kiwanis, Rotary, Iowa Lakes Electric, Egg State, all the ones in the area. Back in February, we sent out a fundraising letter, which did result in a $4,000 revenue, but $4,000 doesn't go very far. We thought we would get more from that. We were working actually with Kaleidoscope Marketing to try to increase revenue, but unfortunately that was only $4,000. So, we've done pizza ranch nights, we've done concession stands. They used to do the park meal. I can't think what that used to be called.
Thursday night.
Yeah,
whatever.
Thursday night we
Yeah,
go by.
whatever that was.
We've done tons of fundraisers. They just don't result in $10,000. So, moving forward though, we would continue to apply for any grants that are available. And then we're considering other fundraising options, like doing some kind of gala, is one of the other things that the Kaleidoscope had suggested. But we're just moving inch by inch to get there, so.
We also, with regards to our fundraising campaign too, we did start working on a capital campaign. Obviously, one of the challenges is the size. And then it was brought to our attention about the steering committee. So we've been, members of the board have also been helping out with the steering committee to take a look at long-term, a potential building, things like that. And then really launch that capital campaign. It's hard to ask for money for a capital campaign without really knowing that cost. So our last meeting was June 26th that we had with the steering committee. And we're just kind of waiting for some initial bids and things like that to go from there. So certainly we have done a lot of different things.
Do you have any commitment from Hope Haven of how many years you can rent?
A 2-year lease agreement is being worked out right now, so we'd have 2 years from when that would be signed, hopefully very soon.
What are the plans after the 2 years?
Well, with our capital campaign, the initial plan was that we would actually purchase the building and then actually do some renovations and add-on. That property works really well. The center currently as it is, although small, does allow us to actually do some additions out there. So that was the initial plan. We had met with Hope Haven as well about that building, but also their current facility too. And the conversation was around purchasing a building. Again, with the steering committee though, and also the city already owning a property, we've really put our attention and focus into getting more information about that as we progress towards what the next steps are. So the goal is to obviously, whether it's building or adding on, is to expand the center so that way it becomes more profitable and being able to support it long term, especially allowing us to have more youth there, more kids at the daycare, allows us to not need as much funding from grants or things like that as well.
Is this because we do have the property that we had spent, what, $200,000, I believe, on a couple of years ago to purchase for daycare, designated for daycare. Any other questions? Do we have anyone else here who would like to speak on this topic? Do we have anybody online? *6 to unmute. If you'd like to comment.
Yes, someone in the
Somebody in the audience.
Okay, please step up.
I haven't had children yet, so I don't understand how it would be, but I do know how important it is. But I am on the, I recently joined the Step Up Storm Lake Committee, and our charity of choice this year is Ready, Set, Grow. And I know it's not going to be a lot of money, but that's one way to do it. Maybe there are service organizations that would be contributing perhaps, and what about employers? Are they helpful with that? I don't know, I can see the desperation in our town, and my heart goes out to you, it really does.
We do currently have a business that is paying our rent, but we are not sure the long-term sustainability of that. It's a partnership that we've been working with, but they kind of pulled back when they saw our finances. So we're hoping that that's going to continue. And they also didn't know what the Hope Haven saying like, well, we don't know when we're going to end your lease. Now that they've said we're going to extend it for 2 years, we're hoping that that business will continue. We've also considered having other businesses sponsor us for a month, help cover those operational costs for a month, and you would be sponsored on the Facebook page, do different things like that.
Anything else? Council, any other questions? Hearing none then? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have any further comment? With that, I would entertain a motion for the funding request from Ready, Set, Grow for $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year. Is there a motion for the funding request? Hearing no motion, the item dies. Do we have any city council requested items for future work sessions? Okay. Have anything else?
Honorable,
Ms. Abigail?
Honorable Mayor and Council, I do not.
Okay, council, anything else? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Ramos,
Second?
second by Councilperson McKinney. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.